How Counter-Strike was made. If you have any knowledge or interest in gaming, there's no chance you haven't heard of Counter-Strike. It has become something of a global phenomenon in the gaming space in the past couple of decades, and for good reason too. Counter-Strike is one of the pioneering competitive multiplayer shooters that has amassed so much popularity that it is recognized universally by all today. The impact that it has made on the gaming landscape in the years since its rise is profound, and it continues to influence the tactical shooter genre today. With it being such a global giant, it makes you wonder just how it ever reached this point. So today, we'll answer exactly that as we explore how Counter-Strike was made. So let's dive in. The origins of Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike's inception comes from the iconic Half-Life, a game developed and released by Valve Corporation in 1998. Developed using the then revolutionary Gold SRC engine, Half-Life was universally praised for its immersive storytelling, innovative level design, and groundbreaking gameplay. But the most important thing about Half-Life was Valve's commitment to supporting the modding community. Modding, short for modification, refers to the practice of altering or extending existing video games to create new gameplay experiences. The vibrant modding community of the late 1990s and early 2000s noticed how well Half-Life's shooting mechanics and design assets might lend themselves to other different kinds of games. The robust tools and resources provided by Valve gave modders the means to experiment with Half-Life's engine, leading to the creation of a vast range of innovative mods. In 1999, gamers and modding enthusiasts Min Gooseman Lay and Jess Cliff, who were inspired by popular multiplayer shooters at the time such as Quake and Team Fortress, envisioned a new and unique kind of FPS game. Lay, a student at the time, began developing the mod as a personal project, focusing on creating a realistic and tactical FPS experience. Cliff joined the project shortly after, contributing to level design, game balance, and community management. The mod gained traction within the Half-Life community through word of mouth and online forums, attracting a dedicated player base eager to participate in intense multiplayer battles. And thus, in June 1999, the pair celebrated the official release of Counter-Strike. Upon release, the game quickly garnered attention for its innovative gameplay mechanics, balanced weapon design, and emphasis on teamwork, strategy, and skill. The use of precise weapon mechanics to create a realistic tactical game led to an experience that was unlike any other at the time. The game's strategic depth and competitive nature really resonated with players seeking a more realistic and challenging FPS experience. Counter-Strike's popularity surged as it spread through LAN parties, gaming cafes, and online communities, quickly cementing its status as a force of nature. Modding communities embraced Counter-Strike and contributed to its evolution through custom maps, weapon skins, and gameplay modifications. With the mod's success, the stage was set for future iterations and a lasting legacy in the gaming industry. The formative years of Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike went through a bit of evolution in its early versions before finally finding its footing, a process that was done through iterative updates and improvements based on player feedback. The core gameplay mechanics such as bomb defusal and hostage rescue maps were introduced with version 1.0, providing a strong base to build from. Subsequent updates, including versions 1.3, 1.5, and finally 1.6, focused on refining gameplay balance, enhancing graphics, and optimizing performance. These updates addressed many community concerns, introduced new weapons and maps, and expanded the game's competitive features. As Counter-Strike continued to evolve, developers introduced a range of new features and gameplay mechanics to enhance the experience further. Updates such as the addition of the tactical shield, iconic new weapons like the Desert Eagle and the AWP, Arctic Warfare Police sniper rifle, and the introduction of gameplay modes such as Deathmatch and Capture the Flag expanded the game's diversity and replay value. Developers also focused on improving anti-cheat measures, addressing community concerns about cheating and hacking in online matches, which was a very real problem at the time. Another defining trait for CS was the close collaboration between the developers and the community in the improvement of the game. This approach allowed for the implementation of player-driven features, bug fixes, and balance adjustments, which ensured that the Counter-Strike experience was almost responsive to the player's needs and preferences. The team's willingness to listen and adapt to feedback fostered a lot of goodwill and investment among players, which was a great factor for the game's success. Another major player in Counter-Strike's evolution was support from the modding community. Ironic, since Counter-Strike was a mod to begin with. Mods for the game ran rampant, with the creation of custom new game modes like Surf, Zombie Mod, and Gun Game, which went on to become so popular that they were eventually considered a staple of the game. The period from 1.0 to 1.6 is where Counter-Strike truly matured, and the culmination of that progress in version 1.6 has solidified that version as the de facto classic CS experience. Counter-Strike as an esport. Counter-Strike's competitive nature and skill-based gameplay were the perfect ingredients for its emergence as an esports phenomenon. Organized tournaments and leagues began to spring up, offering players the opportunity to compete for cash prizes and recognition. The Cyber Athlete Professional League, or CPL, and the Electronic Sports World Cup, or ESWC, were among the earliest organizations to host Counter-Strike competitions, attracting top players and teams from around the world. These events showed off the game's potential as a spectator sport and helped to legitimize competitive gaming on a global scale. The competitive scene for Counter-Strike continued to grow, with professional teams forming and organizations investing in player development and infrastructure. Major tournaments such as the Intel Extreme Masters, or IEM, DreamHack, and ESL1 drew thousands of spectators both online and in person, solidifying Counter-Strike's status as a premier esports title. Professional players became celebrities within the gaming community, with fan bases and sponsorships supporting their careers. Then, the rise of streaming platforms like Twitch provided an avenue for players to showcase their skills and engage with fans, leading to even more visibility and popularity for the game. Counter-Strike's competitive success fueled its growth and popularity among gamers worldwide. The game's accessibility, low barrier to entry, and emphasis on skill-based gameplay attracted players of all ages and backgrounds. Gaming cafes and LAN centers became hubs for Counter-Strike enthusiasts to gather, compete, and socialize. The release of digital distribution platforms like Steam made Counter-Strike more accessible than ever, allowing players to easily purchase and download the game from anywhere in the world. Transition to Source and Global Offensive. A few years into the 2000s, the Gold SRC engine that Counter-Strike was built upon was starting to show its age. A revamp was in order. Thus, in 2004 came Counter-Strike Source, marking a significant transition for the franchise as it finally did away with Gold SRC in favor of Valve's new Source engine. Counter-Strike Source aimed to modernize the graphics and gameplay mechanics of the original game while retaining its core identity. The transition to the Source engine brought improvements in visual fidelity, physics, and audio, enhancing the overall immersion and realism of the game. Additionally, Counter-Strike Source introduced new mechanics such as dynamic lighting and destructible objects, which took further strides for the franchise while maintaining its competitive integrity. CS Source was a success, but it failed to reach the heights of its predecessor, which despite its age remained the most iconic and widely adopted Counter-Strike game. That all changed when in 2012, the next chapter in the franchise launched, Counter-Strike Global Offensive. The csgo entry aimed to build upon the success of its predecessors, as it retained the classic gameplay formula while incorporating updated graphics, improved matchmaking systems, and new game modes. The game's release revitalized interest in the franchise and attracted a new generation of players to the competitive FPS scene. The game also featured updated character models, weapon animations, and environmental textures, delivering a visually stunning experience that felt familiar yet fresh. Gameplay refinements such as improved hit registration, recoil patterns, and movement mechanics added to the game's competitive depth and skill ceiling. Counter-Strike Global Offensive was met with widespread acclaim from critics and players alike, with praise directed towards its polished gameplay, improved visuals, and robust online infrastructure. The game quickly became one of the most played titles on Steam, with millions of players logging in daily to compete in casual and competitive matches. CSGO's success as an esport made it a crucial part of the competitive gaming scene, with major tournaments such as the ESL Pro League, IEM Katowice, and the CSGO Major Championships attracting millions of viewers worldwide. The game's longevity and continued support from Valve have ensured its relevance and popularity years after its initial release. Today, as of recently, Valve has once again changed the game for Counter-Strike with a revamping of CSGO to Counter-Strike 2, built on the new Source 2 engine. This brand new installment boasts a completely reimagined experience, with prominent updates to visual effects, lighting, and particle systems, and new behavior for water, explosions, fire, smoke, and muzzle flashes. With the franchise still receiving revamps this massive, there's no doubt that Counter-Strike is here for the long run. And now you know exactly what it took for it to reach this point. Hope you learned something from this video. Thanks for watching.